Stress is one of the oldest survival mechanisms in the human body. It is not exclusive to humans. Almost all animals have a stress system almost identical to humans, and it has not changed for about 300 million years. The core purpose of the stress reaction is to mobilize fast energy to survive immediate danger. For example, escaping from a predator. The stress reaction is designed to last several minutes, not months, because in nature, threats ended quickly and chronic stress did not exist. Acute stress is usually short, sharp, and intense. It develops when the amygdala, the brain's danger detector, senses a threat. It can be a real threat like a car accident, breaking, or a symbolic threat like an unexpected loud sound or sudden argument. Within seconds, the brain activates fight or flight system, and the adrenal glands release adrenaline and noradrenaline. These hormones increase heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing speed because the body prepares to run or to protect itself and fight. At the moment, the liver releases stored glucose into the bloodstream, rising blood sugar, to provide immediate energy to the muscles. Blood flow shifts from the digestive organs to muscles. The pupils widen, reaction time becomes faster, and the brain becomes more alert. This whole reaction happens in less than 10 seconds. Acute stress is not harmful by itself, but if stress happens many times per day and lasts long enough, it starts to affect the body negatively. Blood pressure rises, it creates blood sugar instability and stimulates the inflammatory system. Over time, these repeated small reactions can contribute to hypertension, insulin resistance, migraines, digestive disturbances, and sleep destruction. Very frequent acute stress also makes amygdala more sensitive, meaning the brain starts reacting to smaller triggers, creating a constant feeling of being on edge. And chronic stress happens when stress system stays partially activated for weeks to months. It's caused by long-standing situations that body cannot solve with running or fighting. This includes work overload, financial uncertainty, unstable relationships, continuous noise, constant multitasking, sleep deprivation, or long-term emotional tension. In this situation, the brain continues releasing cortisol every day, and cortisol becomes the dominant hormone. High cortisol for prolonged period changes almost every system in the body. It weakens the immune system, which is why people under chronic stress get colds more often, heal more slowly, and have higher risk of infections. It slows down the thyroid and reduces sex hormones, causing fatigue, weight gain, loss of libido, irregular menstrual cycle, and reduced fertility. It increases belly fat because cortisol tells the body to store fat around the abdomen for quick energy. It changes the gut because digestion slows, stomach acid increases, and balance of gut bacteria becomes disrupted, leading to bloating, reflux, or irritable bowel syndrome. Chronic stress also changes the brain structure. The hippocampus, which is responsible for memory, becomes smaller and less efficient, which is why people under chronic stress forget things easily and cannot concentrate well. The prefrontal cortex, which helps with decision making and emotional control, becomes weaker. On the other hand, the amygdala, which produces fear and alertness, becomes stronger. This is why chronic stress creates irritability, fear, overthinking, and constant anticipation of problems. Long-term consequences of chronic stress accumulate slowly. and many people notice them only after several years. A persistent high cortisol level increases risk of high blood pressure, stroke, and heart disease because cardiovascular system remains in semi-activated state. Chronic stress is usually triggered. The brain senses a problem that cannot be escaped or cannot be solved quickly. These situations that repeat every day last for weeks or months and create consistent feeling of pressure. The first and most frequent cause is work overload. When the person must accomplish more tasks than they realistically can, especially with strict deadlines or low control. Second major condition is financial insecurity. The brain interprets uncertainty about money as a threat to survive. Debt, unstable income, rising expenses, or fear of losing work create a long-lasting stress program in the brain. The third common condition is unstable or conflict-driven relationships. This brain threat emotional conflict as danger, constant arguments, tension at home, unpredictable behavior from a partner, or emotional neglect cause repeated stress response throughout the day. Emotional instability is biologically identical to threat. The fourth example is chronic sleep deprivation. When sleep is short, irregular, or poor, cortisol rises up to 40% the next day. The fifth condition is continuous noise and environmental overload. Living near heavy traffic, having noisy neighbors, constant shouting at home, or working in a loud environment signals the brain that it cannot relax. The sixth example is constant multitasking. The brain is not designed to switch attention rapidly between many tasks. The seventh condition is chronic health problems, especially those cause pain, fatigue, or unpredictable symptoms. When the body sends continuous distress signals, the brain interprets it as an ongoing threat. And eighth common condition is social isolation for humans. Isolation is biological danger signal. Modern studies show that loneliness increases stress hormones around 30%. The brain interprets isolation as vulnerability. The ninth example is constant unpredictability and lack of control. When plans repeatedly fail, life feels chaotic, or circumstances change too often, the brain enters hyper-alert mode. Uncertainty is one of the strongest stress triggers. The 10th major condition is emotional suppression. When a person cannot express disagreement, cannot say no, hides frustration, or constantly tries to please others, the internal stress response never shuts down. Internal emotions, conflict activate, and some pathways are external threat. Stress causes inflammation because of cortisol, which is normally anti-inflammatory. But when cortisol remains elevated every day, the human cells become resistant to cortisol level. This phenomenon is called glucocorticoid resistance. When resistance develops, immune system cells begin releasing more cytokines, which are inflammatory molecules. These cytokines spread through bloodstream and activate inflammation in different organs. This is why chronic stress is linked higher level of C-reactive proteins, interleukins, and tumor necrosis factor, which are markers of inflammation. Chronic stress also increases inflammation through the gut because slow digestion and altered gut bacteria leads to microscopic irritation of the intestinal lining. This irritation allows tiny fragments of bacterial products to enter the bloodstream. It raises inflammation markers by 20 to 50%, especially in people who have irregular sleep and unstable blood sugar level. Because of these mechanisms, stress increases the risk of many diseases. Long-term stress raises the risk of type 2 diabetes by about 40 to 60%. It increases the risk of heart attack by around 50% because inflammation makes plaque more unstable and more likely to rupture. It increases the risk of stroke around 40%. Chronic stress increases the risk of depression about 2 to 3 times because inflammation affects neurotransmitters and the structure of hippocampus. It increases risk of autoimmune disease like rheumatoid arthritis and Hashimoto's disease about 20 to 30% because cortisol imbalance disrupts immune regulation. It increases risk of irritable bowel syndrome by more than 50% because stress directly affects gut motility and gut bacteria, and it increases likelihood of migraine attacks by about 30 to 40% because inflammation irritates pain pathways in the brain. Now let's say how to manage stress by supplements, how to help ourselves. One of the most studied supplements for stress is magnesium, especially magnesium glycinate or magnesium citrate. People under chronic stress have lower magnesium level usually, and supplementation around 200 to 400 milligrams per day usually reduces tension, irritability, and sleep problems. In studies, magnesium lowered perceived stress by around 20 to 30%. The second supplement is L-theanine, a natural amino acid found in tea leaves. It helps stress by increasing alpha brain waves, which are associated with calm alertness. It does not cause sedation, but it relaxes the mind in gentle and clear way. People who take 200 milligrams often notice that racing thoughts slow down and the body feels lighter. Another evidence-based supplement is omega-3 fatty acids, especially EPA and DHA. Omega-3 reduces inflammation in the brain and improves communication between nerve cells. The chronic stress increases inflammatory cytokines. Omega-3 counteracts these changes and reduce anxiety symptoms around 15 to 20%. The next supplement is rhodiola rosea, which is useful for people who feel mentally exhausted. Rhodiola increases energy production in the brain, lowers feeling of overwhelm. It reduces stress because increased serotonin and dopamine levels, which helps the brain to stay resilient under pressure. Studies show that rhodiola reduces fatigue in about 60% of people within 2 weeks. And vitamin B complex is also important for stress reduction. Vitamin B supports energy production, neurotransmitter synthesis, and adrenal function. People who experience chronic stress often higher demand for vitamin B, especially vitamin B6, vitamin B9, and vitamin B12. This supplementation helps reduce mental fatigue and improves emotional stability, especially in people high work stress.